Hello, everyone. I'm Edith Wolek. Um, I'm here with Keri Stanley, who is a coach. Please tell us, Keri, what do you do and who do you serve now?
Yeah. Hi, Edith. So great to be here. So I am a life and performance coach. I help women manifest and co-create the lives of their dreams and step into adventure. Like I'm really, really big on adventure. For those that follow me, see that I travel all over the world and I run international retreats all over the world because I'm a big believer that when we get outside of our normal traditional routines and we get out into nature, that's when we really discover who we are and what we want. And so my entire mission is helping women step into that and find themselves in those types of places.
Amazing. And tell us a little bit what motivated you to start your own business?
Well, interestingly enough, funny story I was getting my MBA in entrepreneurship, not because I had a desire to go into entrepreneurship, but because I just felt like I was working in corporate, I was in healthcare, and I was in leadership. And I'd started my MBA a couple of times virtually. And so I wouldn't finish it. It was a span of, 10 years. I'd had twin boys during that time. And I finally had a moment of like, okay, I have an opportunity where the MBA came to the hospital and I could do it in person with a group of my friends. And it just happened to be in entrepreneurship. So I said yes, so that I could actually get the MBA. I wasn't planning on using it in anything other than like chalk it off that I got the MBA. Literally right before the MBA was completed, it was 3 weeks before the MBA was completed, I was fired. And I made a decision that the hospital did not like, and it was a decision that was authentic to me. But really, when I look back on it, it was God pulling the rug up underneath me because I was complacent, I was comfortable, I was great at my job, but I wasn't in my greatness. And so what happened was I finished the entrepreneurship degree, and I had about 4 months where I fortunately was being paid and had some time to really rethink my life. And what I noticed was my entire life had become my career. And it was the one thing that I had to lose that I hadn't lost because I had wrapped my identity in it. And when I stepped away from that and had the entrepreneurship degree, and I was standing in front of, very quick backstory, but I was in 2 weeks later, my mom said, let's go to New York City. It's Christmas time. Really, she just wanted to get my mind off of all of it, give me a fresh start. And I stood in front of the Macy's window at Christmas time, literally on 34th Street, Miracle on 34th Street space. And I remember thinking, like, I've done all the right things in my life. I have done all of the things that, the checkbox, all the things that you're supposed to. But what I noticed was I got more and more unfulfilled in my life. And I'd already gone through a divorce. My twin boys were 5 at the time. And I just noticed I was happy on the outside. You guys can probably relate to this. I was happy on the outside, but on the inside, I just felt like something was missing. And there was this little kid that was on the window. It was snowing. There was like hardly anybody on the streets. And it was that fresh snow, like where it's like crunching. And I felt the chill of the air. I was standing there on the corner and I felt like I was in a snow globe and like everything stopped. And I looked at this little kid that was on the window, that was painted on the window because they're all decorated at Christmas time. And right above the kid's name, the child's, or not the name, but right above the child's image that was on there was the word believe. And I looked at that and it was like something reached out and grabbed me and said, what would happen if you believed in yourself again? What would happen if you go back to all the dreams that that little girl had that you put on the shelf? And instead of doing things right, instead of taking a right down the street all the time, because I literally was standing at a cross section of the road, what happened if you chose to go left? Because going right, doing things right, actually wasn't working out. It was working out on the outcomes, on the success metrics of society, but it really wasn't working out on an internal success metric. And so in that moment, I decided to honor the little girl within. And that is actually when my business was born. And I decided to put the entrepreneurship degree to the test and start up my own business and actually start going after my dreams and see what happened. So it was not because I was like, hey, I always, those stories of like the little girls on the little girls or little boys with the lemonade stand or whatever. And they've just always had this entrepreneurial spirit. That wasn't me, because I learned from an early age to follow the rules, to do things right, to keep quiet, to do, all those things. And so starting a business was not at all in my thoughts, because it was like, you got to do the safe thing. You got to all those things. And so I was actually uprooted into my purpose because I had gotten comfortable and God knew there was more. Yeah. So I've been in business for right about 5 years, and I've been in full time. So after that moment in New York City, I actually was offered a few months later, I was actually offered another job. And so I actually went back in and did that for a while I was building my business. And so for the last 3.5 years almost, I've been full time in my business. And so that's right about the timeline of my journey.
Do you have a proven strategy of growing your business?
It's so funny. We were actually having this conversation a little bit before we started. I'm a big believer in manifesting. One of the things that I have found is relationship is currency. And the two things that have really paid off for me is my spiritual relationship, my relationship with God, and my relationship with people. And because I've always put that first, my business has grown based off of referrals, relationships, and manifesting, co-creating with God way more than any proven strategy. So my proven strategy actually is God is my CEO first.
Yeah, I wish businesses would do that kind of strategy, but because it's needed in the world, and unfortunately, God is not being put on us as a CEO as a first place where we look for inspiration, and He's got all the answers. So I know you have a family, you have your sons. Tell us, how do you balance work and your family?
Yeah. So right now, when I started my business and I started down this journey, my sons were younger, but they are 17 at this point. And when I went through the divorce, I think I said my sons were 5 for the business, but it was actually when I went through the divorce, my sons were 5. And now they are 17. And so, honestly, they're in that stage, for those of you that have teenagers, or remember that time, they're in that stage that they don't need a whole lot from you, but when they do, they do. And so like, honestly, I'm fortunate that I'm in a stage where I can be there for all their activities. I can be around, but they don't need me in a way like they did when they were younger from a time aspect. And so that has actually created some freedom in my business. And I do believe we go through different stages in our business, and we get to honor. It's very, very important that we get to honor I don't know, do we have women and men listening to this? We get to honor the stage that we're in as we're going through life. And sometimes sometimes our families are needing even more attention. Sometimes, we are needing more attention. Sometimes our businesses are needing more attention. Like, we get to honor what that is. So honestly, right now, I have a lot of freedom, and so I'm immersing that into it. Like, even this morning, I got up and did hot yoga super, super early this morning. I got up at 4:15, drove 45 minutes to go to hot yoga. And I'm really in this stage of just honoring, like you were talking about the balance, like honoring what my body's asking for. And so it was asking for, like, not a push workout, but like truly enjoying and expanding rather than pushing. Does that make sense? And so that's the stage that I'm in. And so I think the balance, so often we think of balance as we're evenly balanced all the way across. And to me, it's really not that way. We've got to give ourselves grace to say what's actually asking for my attention, and that we move it around based off of where we're seeing the opportunity. And so I think when we do that and we stay in alignment with our values, that is what creates balance.
I found it early on. I started to tip over the hours for business and forget about my responsibilities, at home, which is taking me to another question, which is, how do you deal with delegating the tasks, and how to responsibly delegate those?
Yeah, I think there's two parts to that. And there's something, can I add on to something from
Sure.
before that question, then go back? So I'm listening to the book right now that is Think Like a Monk, and it's by Jay Shetty. And I was actually listening to it on the way down to yoga and on the way back. And one of the things that I thought was so incredibly powerful was it talked about learn from the people that have the values that you want to live your life by, rather than the people that have the things that you want. So often we emulate, or we go for, and in business, I think this is really big. So for all of you that are, I'm building my income, I'm building my strategy, I'm building all of this, and you're looking at it and saying, well, they've got the lifestyle I want, they've got the things that I want, they've got the wealth that I want, whatever that means. They've got the things and the outcomes you want. But really dig underneath the surface. And that's why I think this was so incredibly important, because Tony Robbins has a quote that says, success without fulfillment is essentially failure. And so often we're chasing that success without the fulfillment, and it really gets to be both. So when we really when you're looking at who do I work with, the strategy, those types of things, really look at who's living by the values and then implementing in that way. So you can actually look at your schedule. So back to the balance, you can actually look at your schedule and start saying, how am I making decisions? And am I making them by my values, and I'm making them out of alignment because I'm basing them on an outcome rather than how I value. So in answer to your question, and that how this ties into the delegating piece, is you want to go there first. You want to go to the values first. So how do I value my time and what's really, really important to me? And the things that aren't get to be delegated, or I just simply get to say no to. It is just as important what we say no to as what we say yes to. And we forget that. And so some things just simply don't need to be done. And then other things you want to say, is this something that I highly value? Is this something that I'm great at? Is this something worth spending my time on? And anything that's not gets to be delegated out. So for me, that's how I look at it. So for example, making a Canva, some people are great at graphics or those types of things. Making something like that takes me, even if it takes me 30 minutes, somebody else can do it in 5. I have an assistant that can do certain things like that. Like, I think she sends it back to me before I even feel like I got it sent. that would be like an hour long me trying to mess with something, like that gets to be delegated. So that's how I really think about it.
I'm so happy you used that example, because that's what I'm trying to tell people, that I can do that for you so quickly rather than you spending hours on designing something or any marketing materials, because that's the value we're bringing. The years that we put in learning 5, 6, 7 different programs in order to put everything together. Rather than, you know, for somebody to trying designing it on Canva. But yeah, amazing strategy. I get to think about delegating some tasks which are office work, or, you know, paperwork. I don't know what else. There are so many different aspects of business that can be delegated. And how do you go about selecting? Is it something that you don't enjoy doing, or you not want to spend that time in order to do that? How do you determine which needs to be delegated?
Yeah, I love the idea of like, am I truly in a CEO? And so often when we start a business, we're in the doing and the task of it, especially when it's in early stages. But when we really sit there and say, I'm the CEO of this business, would a CEO be spending their time on these things? And and yes, you do more. There are more things that you're going to do as the CEO of your business when you're first starting out. So completely understanding that, but how quickly can you start delegating things that, one, drains your energy? Back to the Canva thing, like I can get kind of creative with it, but I'm also going to get frustrated with it. And somebody else can do it in seconds and have it ready for me. So what is my time worth is just as important as what can I be spending this time on that's going to bring value to moving the business forward. So a lot of the doing tasks, if you can move them off your plate, the better, because the CEO role is really the visionary. And we greatly underestimate that our creativity, just like you get great ideas in the shower, your creativity is actually working time for a CEO. Your playtime is actually working time for a CEO, because that's when the ideas are coming in. So you've got to allow space for that. You've got to allow space for taking care of yourself, because that actually fuels the business. So if I'm caught up in all the doing, then they say I'm working on my business, not working in my business. And so I'm not creating the business. I'm just doing all the things. So I really look at it as, am I the best person to do this? Am I the quickest person to do this? And what does this free me up so that I can spend time on? Which could be my family, which could be me being, in hot yoga, which could be me, hiking and creating that, like the bigger vision strategy, while somebody else is formatting an email. So I could do it, but if I really think about, I'm the visionary of the company at a high level, the quicker I can move into that mindset, the more my business is going to flourish.
So happy that I get to record this because I'm going to get some tips as well as a new business owner about creating that kind of, or being in a state of visionary. Is that to do with leadership, and what is leadership to you?
I love this question, because leadership, I think, changes based off of, you know, your, maybe a company that you've worked for, or a title, or different things like that. But what I see as true leadership is, how am I authentically leading my entire life? And it doesn't need to be different for my family versus my business versus, you know, my love life versus, you know, any of those things. So it is me being anchored in to, who do I want to show up as a leader? I'll tell you a very quick story with my, it's fascinating working with 17-year-old twins, where they're totally different. They've got totally different mindsets. They've got totally different, you know, things that they value. And the way that they see the world is very different, even though they're twins. So it's fascinating watching. And then also just like, you know, the development of what we're learning. And so my son got a job and decided that, you know, money was very important to him. But one of the things that he really quickly realized within the first couple of weeks is how much high school activities he was missing out on. And so what he realized really quickly was, I'm actually valuing experiences, and I won't get these experiences back. So I can make money for the rest of my life, but right now I'm choosing this. So what we talked through as he was realizing this is, he was going to turn in his notice, and everybody may have, you know, different thoughts on that, but he was going to turn in his notice. And we really talked about how he wanted to do that, because what was the important things that mattered for him and the leader that he got to be in that moment. So how was his leadership? So how he resigned made a difference. How he delivered that message made a difference. How he showed up made a difference. And I think that, and then what we talked about is, now you get to learn through making some of these decisions moving forward, because leadership's not about perfection or an image or any of those things. It's saying, wow, you know, looking back, I probably wouldn't have applied for that job. Like looking back, I would have, but I didn't know some of those lessons until I went through it. And now he gets to apply it. So what we talked about was, true leadership is actually learning and moving forward from those and applying them, and really understanding. It goes back to, what do I value? And I get to learn what I truly value. So going back to think like a monk, one of the things that he talked about was the way we see ourselves. Most of us in society, the way we see ourselves is not how we see ourselves. It's not how others see us. It's actually how we think others see us.
Right. Wow.
So it goes through 3 layers. And so one of the things that's really important in leadership, my belief, and true, authentic, courageous leadership, is that we peel away those 3 layers to get truly down to, what is my identity? What do I value? What do I stand for? And that I unapologetically start making decisions from that place, and also not judging anyone else from making that for them or any place that they are on the process. So that was kind of a long answer to your leadership, but that's how I see it. It's a never-ending journey.
Never-ending journey, and we get to find out a lot of those golden nuggets as we going through this process of being a business owner, and being that person who is leading, who is a leader to their own journey, a true leader to their own life. Because it's never about the business, it's about the life we are touching, and the people that we are serving. I think we're coming to the end of this wonderful interview, and would you like to share your gift to give to our audience?
Yeah, the one that I'm thinking about is, and especially just because we've kind of talked about how important it is from a mindset standpoint, is I actually just created 4 meditations, and they're for sale for people to buy. And it's a bundle of 4 different meditations. And what I would love to do for your audience, for those people that are wanting to try out, they're 6 to 10 minutes. So they're short for people that are starting out with meditations, and they're all a little bit different style. And so what I would like to do is just give that bundle, those 4 meditations, to your audience for free for anyone that wants it.
Thank you so much. I'm sure anyone who needs to start meditating and get in a good headspace before before starting your work or at the end of the day, it's amazing how meditation can help you with getting yourself aligned.
Yes, absolutely. One of the meditations is about receiving. And so often as entrepreneurs, we are putting out a lot, and we forget that one of the greatest muscles we can build is our receiving muscle. And so I actually kind of walk you through how to open up to receiving, because many times the reason that our cash flow is low is because we're blocking our receiving of that. And so, so super, super important to open up to that.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Keri. And it was a pleasure to have you on this interview series. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's been great to be here. And thank you for putting this together. It's so valuable for all of those listening.